を叫べ悲しみを叫べ魂を叫べ今ここで叫べ
What's up, everyone? Welcome once again to the Yokai Delinquents podcast. I am Sean, Bearded Cappolitan.
I am Jerry Robo Tengu Smith, and we have a special guest for you all today.
Yes, if you've been listening to any of our specials, this voice is going to sound very familiar, but we decided to bring him back again for the regular show. The one, the only, Mike Del Vecchio.
How's it going, guys?
Man, we are doing good and glad to have you on here. And we
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on to now the regular podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It was a good 6 episode. We did 6, right? It was
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
6 episodes. Knocked out 1,000, close to 1,000 chapters. Covered.
Yeah.
Covered 10 years. Yeah.
Road to 876 or something like that.
Right.
Not quite 1,000, but we were pretty damn close.
Close enough.
Right. No, absolutely. But we brought you on here, and we appreciate you coming on. And as tradition with any guest on the Yokai Delinquents podcast, Mike, you get first choice of topic to start off the show with. So we have to ask you what you want to talk about.
All right. I know we all have like very similar interests and all that, but something that I want to talk about is probably like a little more obscure, maybe.
Okay.
And that is the Wano arc of One Piece, and we're gonna go in like really hard and just, go in full detail.
All right. Well, it's been really long, but we are not doing episode 7 of One Piece.
Little did you know that this was a backdoor pilot into our last talk.
You thought you were getting episode 25, but surprise, this is special episode 7.
Hold on, let me cue up the One Piece opening theme song.
Oh man! But no, in all reality, I still remember you guys did. I'm pretty sure it was your first guest that you had on, and you guys talked about the MCU movies and all that, and the rankings, and that actually really inspired me to do that. So like having a lot of time during all this this time period, I've been doing that a lot where I'll take like a franchise or something like that, and I'll just watch it all, rank them, and all that. So I did Marvel movies, I did Godzilla movies, I did James Bond, and right now I'm actually working through Ghibli movies.
Yeah, I saw you started that, and that's all of those are just amazing franchises to work through. But
yes.
Yeah, starting the Ghibli films, even I haven't watched all of those. So I'm very excited to see like whenever I see you posting up on Facebook and whatnot what you're watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Ghibli actually. I started that because my uncle actually lives in Japan right now. He actually lives in Tokyo, and he has for like 25 years or so. He actually teaches English as a ESL to Japanese students.
That's a lucky man.
I remember
right there.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and I remember when I was little, he used to visit home quite a bit, and he like maybe once a year now he'll come back, but. One of the times he did come back, he actually gave me Princess Mononoke on VHS.
Nice.
And I had no idea what this was. It was just this weird thing that he thought. I guess it was the big thing at the time. So he's like, get it for me and see if I enjoy it and all that. And so that kind of started the Ghibli love. But this will actually be the first time I'm watching them all. Like, and I'm trying to watch them in chronological order. So
right. Yeah, that's a cool way to do it, though.
Yeah.
And I did notice, and I've honestly kind of been wanting to do that as well, since I noticed a bunch of them that it's harder to find are actually on HBO now.
Yes, yeah. The HBO Max has all the Ghibli movies, on their service.
Yeah. Now, I just want to throw this one out real quick because it's not released by Ghibli, but it's directed by Hayao Miyazaki and it's done by the studio. Is Lupin the Third, Castle of Cagliostro. So if
Yep.
that one's not on
Yeah.
the list, okay, I was just gonna say it's worth checking out for sure. And
Yeah. But everything that I was reading, they consider that one, and technically Nausicaa technically is not a Studio Ghibli movie, but it's
Right.
considered like the first. But then they kind of lump in Cagliostro in there too. So, but like
Right.
I've already missed Cagliostro, so I'm just gonna keep going forward because
Oh,
it's
for
too late
sure.
to go back now. Like my neurotic brain will not let me go backwards in time.
Right. Well, and to be fair though, like Hayao Miyazaki, of course, is Studio Ghibli, really, and
Yeah.
he created the manga for Nausicaa. So even though it's not
Yeah.
Ghibli proper, it's Ghibli.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, I mean that's a long way around the actual topic I wanted to get to, because this is something else that the three of us have in common, but it's Kamen Rider,
Oh,
and
okay.
specifically the Heisei riders, because I had years ago, back I was on Netflix and I was flipping through and I saw that they had Power Rangers, and in my head I'm thinking, man, I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
Right.
And so I decided to just keep watch episode here and there, and then eventually it turned into, okay, I'm gonna watch everything, because they up until that point they had everything on there, and now it's almost all gone.
Oh, wow.
It just they actually just took it off Netflix, and thank God I finished it like 2 years ago. But then the whole time I'm doing that, and I'm listening to you guys talk about Kamen Rider and all that, so I'm it really got that itch going. So I once I was done with the Power Rangers, I went down and I went in order, because again, neurotic brain. I have to go in order. I watched from Kuga all the way up to Zio, and then I decided, okay, because I think 01 was just wrapping up at that point, and I didn't want to jump into anything that was currently airing, this kind of thing. So I watched all 20.5 because Amazon's technically counts as it's in there, but it's not EM. So, but yeah, and like we all do, you make a list of all the rankings of best to worst. So
okay.
If you want, we can go through that, and just kind of talk about all that stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
I mean,
here's
yeah.
I think we'll do this in the way like we did with James, who was our first guest with the MCU, because especially because I have definitely seen the least Kamen Rider of the three of us. So why don't you give us your list and we will correct you on your opinion.
Yeah.
I think that, like, at least for me, but I mean, Jerry, I know you've watched a bunch. I don't know how much of it. I don't even know the difference between the Heisei and all those different eras. I can't tell you which one's in which. I know I like Kiva. I know I like Ghost. I know I've seen a little bit of Fours, but you know what I mean. So like, however format you want to do it, we could but we're definitely gonna talk about some Kamen Rider.
Can I have one request though? Can we start from the bottom and go to the top?
Yeah.
Oh, I was absolutely gonna do that, because
Awesome.
in my head you always gotta get the the bad stuff out of the way and get the good stuff. So
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Yeah. So starting at the bottom, and just if you go on like forums and all that, and like mostly Reddit, and I always feel like I'm wrong when it comes to my bottom pick, but it's Kamen Rider Ryuki.
Okay.
The one where it was the 13 riders, and they fought in the Mirrorverse and all that.
Right.
I just, it was fun. It was cool because after the first two, it was really different. They instead of just having one or three riders, it went to 13.
Oh,
so
wow.
it was a huge break in the norm, at the time. And then they, when they fight with, they put cards like attack cards, or like I'm trying to think what it is, but like basically they were like attack cards, defense cards, like all kinds of them. They would put it into their weapon and release the attack. I mean, a lot of cool ideas. It just was not my I'm just not a huge fan of the main rider himself. I don't like the suit. I don't know.
And it was also in a time of like early 2000s where there were a lot of like I think Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and all that stuff was really starting to get up there, so they kind of want to implement that into it. Not to mention, this is their first one where they had so many riders, so it's kind of one of those things where they're like trying to figure out what to do with them all, and it got really chaotic. And I mean, I really like the aspect of like them all having like different animals and stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, really cool ideas, and actually, the main antagonist of the show, Kamen Rider Oja, the guy who's the purple snake looking guy, is one of my favorite antagonists of the whole series. I think he's pretty cool, and I also liked that later on in the years they actually bring him back and for a couple specials and all that. But it's just, I don't know. It's just like, I think ultimately it just kind of falls flat in my eyes.
I've not watched any of Ryuki, but I'm Googling images so I can just comment on design. Since I may have drawn him for you, I think.
You probably had, yeah.
Yeah, I hate all Kamen Riders that use the grill face design.
Yeah,
I don't like it. And that's on. I know there's some others too that have vertical or even horizontal, like the grill face. I'm not a fan because I see an image where his eyes are glowing, but that takes away from what I think is iconic in Kamen Rider is usually the big bulky eyes, the bug eyes.
Correct.
So
Correct, yeah.
all I can say is I like the dragon. I don't like his helmet.
No. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but other than Black and Black RX, this is like the first time that they really got. Well, I think even Black and Black RX, they got away from like the main bug theme and started bringing in other animals and stuff like that, I believe.
I think so, yeah, because I mean, after Black RX, which is in the late 80s, early 90s, it was gone for about 10 years. So so of course the first two after they bring it back, they're going to make it the iconic bug looking theme just to kind of get you back into the theme of things, and then you go forward from there. But I guess because you have 13 individual people, it's kind of hard to make them all bugs.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're going to bring in 13 riders, why did this concept just be a Super Sentai show? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or like a Zodiac theme or something like that.
Yeah. They do, in my opinion, I'm sure we'll get to it later, but they do a massive rider series, and they're all bug based, and it actually went pretty well. So.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like we kind of agree with your placement on this one. So far, you're doing okay.
Yeah. All right. My next one, and I'm very, very sorry, but my next one is Ghost.
Okay, I have opinions on this one, but you go ahead.
Well, Ghost, I think had the most potential. I love the suits. I think the suits look awesome. Has one of the best third riders with what the hell is his name? Necrom. That's I think he's probably the best rider in the whole series, but he's so underused. I think when compared to Takaru, the main guy.
Yeah.
And I think what it was is I think they set up this cool aspect that could have been like a season long story of Takaru dies in the first episode. Spoiler, sorry, and he becomes a ghost, and his whole purpose is to find the 12 icons. I think it's 12. And then he come back to life, and they do that within the first 10 episodes, and then he dies again. He comes back. I think that they kind of they found out quickly that they didn't know where they were going to go with the story, and kind of repeated it over and over again.
All right, first of all, the theme of this show is hoodies, and you can never go wrong with hoodies.
No.
Second of all, historical figures, always fun. It was a Billy the Kid hoodie. You gotta love that. And Necrom, even with his scuba gear goggles. You did say, though, he is the greatest rider of all time. I heard all time. That's what I'm going with. No, but I think we've talked about it just off the show. About this show, and I highly disagree where it is. But granted, again, and I think Jerry could attest, this was my first Kamen Rider show I caught from the beginning while it was airing, and we watched it in its entirety. So he is my first rider, and you always love your first rider.
Of
but
course.
I get your point about the whole he died, came back, died. Look, maybe it's me. I don't look at Kamen Rider as for deep stories, even though they're out there. This was fun series for me. I liked all the characters, which is rare, because usually the secondary, not riders, but his friends would be the characters that would normally annoy me in these kind of shows. I liked everybody in this, and especially the like the monk. I really remember liking him a lot.
Yeah, I actually I like where he goes later on when he leaves and becomes the detective with the big fro.
Right.
In some of the later movies, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. It's to me, my bottom few I think have a running theme of a lot of cool ideas that I just personally, again, these aren't the best. These are my personal favorites and worst. So I just think that there's a lot of potential that I think didn't fulfill that I wanted to.
I don't know. Personally, I remember and like again, we jokingly say we're judging you on your opinions, although we're totally judging you on your opinions. It's just I don't know. I watched it with Jerry, and I just remember every week we were like this hyped to see what the next historical suit's going to be, what the power's going to be, and maybe that made me ignore, I guess, the fault in the story, which, you make good points about that, because like the whole thing originally was going to be him coming back from the dead. Then it turns into, die again, died more. And I see your point, but to me, it was just super fucking cool. And I hear a lot of people talking about they don't like the show. And obviously opinions are opinions, but I don't know, maybe it's just, I feel like it gets more hate than it deserves. What do you think, Jerry?
I mean, on that note, I'm kind of at the same mind. As much as I, follow the stories and everything, a big part of the series and why I really like it is it has a lot to do with designs and how unique they make the different forms and the weapons and everything.
Right.
And the enemies and everything really make it. You guys are both wrong for liking Necrom. That's okay.
Necrom is best.
Spectre was really great in that series. I loved it. Necrom was just Spectre light. He had the same gun and everything.
No,
so he just kind of hopped off of them.
Necrom's a prince, so he claims the gun first, even if he got it second. No, but
and also if you're gonna talk about cool design, I mean, the man has a wrist belt, basically.
Exactly.
He transformed with the wrist thing, which is awesome.
Which is great for us hefty cosplayers. That way I don't have to buy the belt extenders. I just attached it to my wrist. Because I do have Necroms. I always call them morphers. I know that's not right term for Kamen Rider. But I have his deal driver. Thank you. Because I'm doing his civilian clothes cosplay for whenever conventions actually fucking start up again. But
that's awesome.
Now, granted, I have grown man forearms. And the kid straps were just not going to go around the forearm. They go around the wrist. So I had to customize my own little wrist strap on there. But look, man, it wasn't the power of friendship. It wasn't. It was partially proper ass whooping, but Necrom came to the light for the takoyaki, and you gotta you gotta love that.
Yeah, it's and it's really interesting, right? Because I don't know, I just really liked how they transformed and everything in it. And how the icons kind of had their own sort of soul in them, and personality and stuff, because it almost takes you to sort of that Deno level, but not quite. But just the fact that they're flying in the air and then they attach to the rider, not to mention all the neat gadgets and stuff that they did for that. What was it? Billy the Kid's gun was wasn't it a clock or something like that? And it was a bat. It was
wacky. They were all plays on his sword or whatever weapon they had. And so Takaro hadn't had the sword that I could turn into different things.
Right.
Yeah. It was a really intriguing series, and I did really like how they factored in the different spirits of history and literary history and stuff like that. It was really neat.
Right, so we all agree Mike is wrong on this one. All right, so what's the next?
Next is another one that I think gets a lot of hate, and I was really, really hoping when I got into it that it wouldn't be this way, but it ended up being this way. Is Wizard. This is one where I think when we talk about that first image, because as I'm getting into Kamen Rider, I'm watching all the first transformation video compilations and all that, and when he comes on there and he's standing there, he has the rings, and he holds out his hand, and the magic ring goes, the magic symbol goes over him, and he comes out in the sleek leather trench coat with the bright red face and all that. It's really cool. and then he's that's about it. Like it's a cool looking show, and I think I think the choreography in that show is one of the best. I think that they really stepped up their game when it came to the fights and all that. But it just, again, I think Haruto, the main writer, I think he's very boring. His shtick is that he likes sugar donuts. That's that's literally like that. That's literally all you can say about him, is that he just. I just think he's a very one note kind of guy, and I think it just, unfortunately, is the reason why it's not high up on my list is because it's there.
Yeah, and it seems like, Kamen Rider kind of takes this whole like arc of okay, this has been done so long ago in Super Sentai that we can do it and it'll be fresh, because it's very Major Ranger, but like not done as well. And I don't know, most of the time whenever you bring a suit in and you give it like more material and stuff, like they did with Ghost with the hoodie and everything, and how they did this suit with the like kind of trench coat type look, I'm usually all for it, but they really kind of like messed it up with that mask, in my opinion. I wasn't really a fan of it.
And then I'll say the secondary rider, Kamen Rider Beast, like had a cool concept, because like instead of having like a full new suit, he had like the multicolored mantles, the like little cape thingies, and it was a cool idea. I even like his super form a lot too. I think it's really cool because it goes from like the gold and black to like all gold with like the highlights of blue and all that, almost like Ixia in Kiva. So, and but then again, his one characteristic is that he likes mayonnaise. Like apparently they had a thing in this one where the writer is just like one type of food.
This is one I've seen a few clips of. I think wasn't this cat show, Jerry?
No, so we had a friend who, it's funny, his name was also Mike.
Mike.
And he actually came to A-Kon with us one year, and it just so happened at A-Kon that year, like they play a lot of like marathons and stuff overnight, and one of the ones that they were doing was Kamen Rider Wizard. So we actually like sat in on a few episodes of that, which I had never watched at that point, but it like basically opened his world to Kamen Rider, and since it was his first one, he like just became enthralled with it.
Yeah. So I haven't seen very much of it, but I don't agree with you on the helmet. I actually really like the helmet. It's a little like, I kind of like how all the red looks like it's just one solid gem with some details over it. And
I think
the trench coat is legit too, as we all agreed. I don't like the belt. I don't look like someone just like slapped him on the tummy and left their handprint. I don't like the belt at all.
The thing with the helmet looking like a gem, the reason why I did that is because all of his transformations are ring based, so they were just rings that had different abilities. So that's why his mimics that.
I dig it.
Yeah,
I like the mask.
It is really cool that the whole shtick is that they have two sets of rings. They have one set that you wear on one hand to activate like spells, and then the other hand is the transformation rings that for like any. He has 4 different forms. It's fire, water, earth, sky, and then he gets a super form, which is a dragon. It's a combination of all of them that becomes like a dragon, and then his final one is like a crystallized version of it. And they're all like the ring is literally the shape of his helmet, which is the thematic theme that Jerry was talking about.
Okay, so what we got next?
So next is Agito, which is the second Heisei rider, right for Kiva, and not Kiva, Kuga. And it was like they kind of played with the idea in the beginning of it that it was like kind of like a sequel to Kuga, but like not really. And then they decided, no, we're not gonna do that. And again, cool concept. The main guy Soichi loses his memory, doesn't know who he is. He wakes up one day, on the beach, and this father and daughter find him. And so he's just living with them, and then as he's going on, he knows that he is Agito, but doesn't know why, kind of thing. It's again cool concept. Just I don't know. It was the first time that we got secondary and tertiary riders. With G3, which is the first it's not like a rider suit or a non-rider transformation. You literally just put a suit on, so it's just a guy in a suit.
Right.
And then the other one where it's Gills, where it's the more like it's almost like Shin, Kamen Rider Shin, the movie from the 90s, where like it's like that body horror style where like he like changes and his mouth like you can see like his mouth changing into it and all that.
I think the thing that I likened most to that was kind of like Guyver, if you ever watched that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and I honestly like I still haven't watched this one, but I kind of did like how they did that for the secondary writers in the series, because I did watch the first few episodes of it, and them having to like have a whole fucking team in a van that carts like G3 stuff around and like has to equip him and everything because this is just so massive and heavy is pretty cool. I kind of like the whole thing with that. That's pretty neat.
Oh yeah, and I actually like his super form because he kind of turns into like it's his burning form where he gets like bulky and like his chest is cracked and like steam is coming out of it because he's literally burning from the inside out. And because then his final form, he bursts out of that and he's a shining form, and it's like from the golden black to like red and silver. And, it's a cool concept, but ultimately not for me.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Cool helmet. Rest of the suit's kind of dull to me. I've never seen anything on it, so.
Yeah. Sean's like, moving on.
I mean, I got nothing else.
Yeah. No, I definitely.
Yeah. All right. So then, coming up next is Blade. Again, it's another one of those card-based attacks. Each of the riders have their own weapons that they can use. They basically, it's a theme of a card of playing cards, like 52 cards. So like each guy has it represents a suit in there in the deck. So the main guy is he's
was he Club?
I think he's Club. No.
Looks like he has a spade on his armor. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Spade, and then the secondary rider is Jack. Is Diamond. Third is Hearts, and then the fourth guy is Spades. Yeah. And then the whole thing is like they're trying to they each have to collect all of them, and then it brings about the ultimate bad guy, the Joker. And then if the Joker wins, then humanity's gone, kind of thing. And again, it's a cool like first 10 episodes and a cool like last 10, but that middle where the meanders is just again
right.
And that's like a good like 20 or 30 episodes.
Yeah.
This was the last one I was supposed to draw for you, and in trying my attempts to draw, which granted it was during the as I mentioned online, my failed attempt at digital, so I may try again with some traditional art. But in studying the armor, I hate this fucking costume. Not just because of how hard it is to draw. Like I literally think it's just clunky, and the helmet is just dumb to me. I hate this armor. I hate his look.
This was Mike's subtle way of saying, finish my fucking commission.
No, like, hey, I've enjoyed, even if I don't like the writers and stuff or don't know anything about them, and they're all tricky. Like all the helmets, like you don't realize how the intricacies of them until you're trying to draw them and capture it.
Right.
But
I can imagine.
I just looked at this, I'm like, I hate it. I hate everything about him. That's all I know about him, though, is his look, and I don't like it.
You're like my friend Adam whenever I requested Beta Ray Bill, and now we have an anniversary of every year that I requested that, and he's like just shudders in anger of me ever requesting that.
Right.
All right. Next up would be Zio or Geo, however if you want to go the correct pronunciation, which is the last of the Heisei riders. He's basically Decade Take Two, where he has he kind of has the powers of every previous rider, in some form or another, which is really cool. I think that they had a lot of good comedy in this one. Like this is the one that they actually had in the first like 10 or 15 episodes. They had like 0.5 episodes where it was literally the actors kind of recapping the episode, but like they had the scripts in their hand and they're like kind of making fun of a lot of what was going on in the show, which I thought was really good.
Right.
But again, I think that one fell into the trope of too many jingles and too many gimmicks. Like like ever since a certain point in Riders, they focus more on like toy sales and like so like they get like so many bits to then sell to kids at some point, and I think he like really went heavy on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
the changing stuff for that was wild.
Like his suit is interesting. I actually kind of like, the more I look at it, the more I like it a bit better.
It's cool when you realize that like from like his belt up to his head and then back is literally a watch.
A watch band. That's fine. I get that, and I dig the helmet. But in Google imaging this, I also see what I'm gonna assume is his final form, and looks like a Cronenberg monster of like too many things melded together, and it is horrible. I hate it, and I usually hate super forms, the final forms, and that goes for the giant Zords in Super Sentai when they combine everything, and oftentimes in Kamen Rider. And this looks terrible to me.
Well, like, and another thing that he did, because this was another one that I didn't watch while it was coming out, so I kind of like missed out. So it's one of those that I'm gonna have to put on the back burner. But he also had the whole thing where he could transform into previous riders, correct?
Yes, yeah. The whole thing was that he had to go. It was cool because unlike Decade, they actually got people to come back, like previous. Just about someone from every season came back to represent that previous season.
Right.
And the whole point was they had to solve. There was their bad guys were called Another Riders, where it was literally they became like a gross, disgusting version of that main rider, and they had to beat them to get the ride watch, which would then give them like a armor that represented that season.
Right.
Yeah, Sean, please look up the Kiva version one. It looks interesting.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, but while I do that, y'all, what's the other? It's another Kiva. Huh? Oh my fucking hell! Nope. No. Actually, yet again, the more I look at it, I'm kind of digging it because it's a monster. Yeah, it's the monster
right. Yeah.
version. All right, I see. Yeah. I see what you do with Zio.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting, and that's something that we'll bump into again whenever we get to Decade. Is like, Decade was the Heisei, the regular Heisei era, and then Zio was the Neo Heisei era.
Right. Yeah.
So he got like 2010 and up, where Decade got 2000 to 2010.
Right. Yeah.
Right up.
Yeah. So it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah. That's a good transition because my next is Decade. Actually, this is one I think it gets a lot of unnecessary hate, which is I think he was the only series where he got super short. He only has 39 episodes versus like the 45 to 48 or whatever it is that a lot of other ones get. But I think he has some of the coolest stories. Like I said before with Zio, they were able to get people from previous seasons. Decade wasn't. So what they did was they made like alternate reality versions of them, like so like all the writers are there, but they're not the old actors. So they're new actors with new stories and new situations and all that, which I really liked a lot.
Yeah, and actually, this is whenever I decided to get into Kamen Rider, and this is the first series that I actually watched.
Wow! So this is your first run.
Yeah, I know. It was interesting to jump into, let me say. But I had a friend who kind of like, was kind of showing it to me and stuff like that, and he was like, "Well, if you don't know what writer you want to get into, check out this series because it'll show like a bunch of them that they've had through the past." And I'm like, "Okay, this seems interesting." So yeah, just kind of jumping into this and sort of getting a small sort of abstract like thing into like the whole Kamen Rider. And then they even brought in like some Super Sentai in an episode.
Yes, there's a two-parter with the Samurai Rangers that were happening at the time.
Oh, okay. Well, my thing to contribute to this thing is he's got fucking grill on his helmet. At least the eyes are over them, but it's still ugly as hell. I hate this suit. That's all I have.
See, I love the suit because he's magenta. He's
He is
I just think that it's a very bold choice to go, and he rocks it.
It's pretty awesome because you don't get colors like that a lot for especially your main rider.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's
I
fair.
will.
I think it's just the lack of symmetry in his design. It's just purely aesthetic. Again, like I don't because I've never seen any of it. I can't comment. It may work more like in action, but just looking at the design concept, I'm like I hates it.
And the actor who plays Tsukasa, the main writer, has actually like really people didn't like him when he was playing him the first time, but he's come back so many times and he owns that role now that people like retroactively like really started to like him as a writer because he comes back for like a random special. He actually plays a bigger part in Zio much later on. Zio is like it finishes out his story, like, kind of thing, in the last like 10 episodes or so.
Yeah, and a lot of the times in the movies they'll actually use Decade, as a means to bring in other writers and stuff like that, which is really cool.
His big rival in a lot of those superhero Tyson, where they get the Super Sentai along with them, is Marvelous from Gokaiger. Because it's literally the same power. Like they have access to all the other guys.
Nice.
That was a pretty cool thing. I will say that I don't know. There's a lot of super forms that I'm okay with. Man, he has gotten some doozies though.
Oh yeah, they're rough.
And then so like his thing is like calling on the powers of different writers and stuff. So he has the secondary writer, the End, that's in the series. Is like even worse shaped. Like I as much as the Decade costume has grown on me. I don't think the D End one ever will. Like, no,
it's rough.
But it's kind of cool because their whole thing is they collect cards for each of the writers' worlds that they go through because they're going through different Kamen Rider universes and stuff. And Dian's thing is he has a gun that he uses to transform, and he'll put in one of the cards and he shoots it, and it spawns one of the riders to fight next to him. So that was kind of a
he has access to all the secondary and sometimes third riders.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. So that was really neat. It was a good introduction, I feel like, to the series. A little chaotic, but it was pretty neat, and it gave me a good idea of the series that I wanted to do next for sure.
Nice. All right. Next, we'll make Sean happy. Is Kiva.
Kiva.
Again, Sean and I talked about this off air, but Kiva is one of another one that gets a lot of unnecessary hate, and I think it's because you're either on board with the two storylines. Like there's a storyline in 2008 when the show was airing, and then in 1986 where it followed his father. And you either love the idea of going back and forth every episode, or you don't.
Right.
And I liked it. I like the past storyline a lot better. I think his father is a much better character than Kiva, but that's just me.
Right. No, and I agreed that I don't know if I can say I understood when you said like how you like the past story better, because I think it was honestly it for a show that Kamen Rider is traditionally aimed at kind of older kids, younger teens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this one definitely felt like they were aiming at a bit older audience with that.
Sure. Yep.
And so I get that, and as watching as adults or young adults, we were when we watched it, I think it did appeal more. So the past story appealed more as an old, because I was I was in my 30s, I think, when I watched it. It was a few years ago.
Yeah. Same.
But so I appreciated the past stories more so than the one, because it felt like that was aiming at an older audience. But so Kiva, horror. If y'all know anything about me, about my other podcast reviewing horror movies, this was monster themed. This is why Jerry threw this show at me. He's like, Because I was like, we were watching Ghost, and I'm like, well, and I know, like, I've heard Jerry talk about some other shows, and he's like, have you heard, you need to check out Kiva. And I think you showed me, like, one of his forms that incorporated the monsters. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely interested. But Kiva's just plain suit is damn near perfection to me. It fits the theme.
Yeah.
It's cool looking as shit. I love the single boot with the chains that gets, eventually gets like the bat power. And for me, it's one of my favorite rider kicks of him going upside down, before, kicking it, doing his kick. It's like, I look at Kiva and I think it's just one of the best suits in all of Kamen Rider.
Yeah, and he's also one of the few ones that came out around this year that doesn't have like a sports bike. He's got like a fucking hog.
Oh yeah,
yeah, which is again fitting. Cool. Yeah, very fitting of his stuff. I love the sword, but and you know what though, I'm gonna say it though. Even my boy, and he is, like I said, he is my favorite Kamen Rider. His final form, I'm not a fan.
No.
It's not the Emperor form, but like his Omega. I never know how to say that word right. Amalgam of all the different monsters. It looks. It looks terrible. Even he's not beyond that horrible look at the end. But yeah, I mean like his rider. I remember being. And it's been a while since I've watched it, but I love his morpher. Or his driver with the bat biting down, and I like the violin kind of theme they've always had going with both the past and the present storyline. Yeah, Kiva's a lot of fun. It's one I definitely need to sit down. I would love to rewatch again.
Yeah, it was just like fantastic. It had so many cool like themes to it, and just the whole thing like how quirky the main rider is and everything. It really kind of felt like it took cues from Garu. Without being too
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And a side note too is the werewolf friend of his. That actor is from one of my favorite over the top Japanese films Versus. And once I realized that was him, I just loved the series even more.
I love him. He was his interactions with the father in the past are some of my favorite because like it's like that rivalry fighting over the girl that they both like. It's just he's actually an actor in one of my favorite ones that you'll hear later on.
Oh, okay,
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean just. Kind of going back to the monster designs and everything was awesome. The fact that he had the castle where he had the main forms in, and like he would summon them and transform into them. His fucking emperor form. I actually didn't even mind his amalgam form because it was like less like just fuck my shit up.
It's not as bad as others, but I still like compared to the other forms. I didn't like it.
The Ixa suit was really cool. I like the rider. And then later on, we got Dark Kiva, and then we also got Kivala. Which really cool. I don't think she popped up until one of the movies, though, right?
I think it was in Decade, I believe.
Yeah, she's not like official canon. I don't think. I think she only appeared in a movie crossover, so she's not official, but one of the few female writers, and of course her outfit was legit. I liked it too.
Yeah, it was a really, really good design. This series completely reeks of great design.
I agree wholeheartedly.
All right, moving on to the next one that will make Jerry very happy is Forze.
Yes,
I love Forze. I think was right after Decade when it became Neo Heisei, it had a string of 3 in a row, balls to the wall, fantastic series, and Forze was that third one. I like other ones better, but I think Forze is that great. Like it's the closest to an anime that you'll ever get in a Kamen Rider, and it's high school. Like high school friends hanging out, and they get into like funny hijinks. I mean, the main character has a pompadour. He wants to be everyone's friend, like no matter what. It's just it has so much energy that I really love. I just think it gets a little bogged down with the whole shtick of the switches. I just think it's like what's like it's like 37 too many out of 40.
Right.
Okay, so here's something you're gonna like. I'm about to contradict myself that I've been bitching about with all these other writers. Fours, or Fours, I'm not. However you're supposed to pronounce it. I think Jerry told me Fours, so that's how I've always called it.
I just said fours.
It's either right, honestly.
Right. I haven't watched all of it. It's the one actually I really do want to sit down and watch it in its entirety. I don't care how busy and ridiculous his add-ons are; they work for me. Like from giant boots. Like then he has like a missile on his boot at one point, or like like the giant shoulder pads. I'm kind of going through it, or the drill foot, and just everything about it. It's so weird because it feels like a space station add-ons that it works for me.
Yes.
So no matter for me, no matter how ridiculous his final forms got, it clicked for me. It works. I love his basic suit, and we're on Yokai Delinquents, and he's a delinquent with a pompadour. He does the squat. He does I mean, it's a show. He's not on my favorites because I haven't watched it, but I could easily see when I finally do sit down and watch all of Fours, he's going to be one of my top Kamen writers.
It's so great, and it's the funniest thing about it, and I do this more times than I'd like to admit, is I'll look at something and I'll be like, nah, that looks stupid, and just avoid it for the longest amount of time, but it'll keep popping up in the fandom that I'm in to where eventually I'll just finally get into it. And Fours was that series. I thought the helmet was just ridiculous and goofy, and I'm like, nah, that looks pretty dumb. I don't like how plain the suit looks and everything, but it was amazing.
It definitely works.
Yeah, just how they did the modular pieces for both arms and both legs, and how he could pop the switches in and do different combos, and how creative they got with them. They had some switches, like Mike said, that were just why is this in the show? But it they ended up using it for the episode at some point, or did combos. And I think actually at one point they went used all of them. I don't know if it was in one of the movies or what. Yeah. But he essentially went through and used all of them. And talk about awesome forms. He had some of the best forms that I've seen. And then, you have the secondary writer of Kamen Rider Meteor, where it did that whole thing where it was oh, we're going to start off where they're rivals and then they become friends later on, because that was the biggest thing about Kisaragi, is he's pops in as that weirdo, a delinquent character that everybody's why are you talking to me kind of thing, and turns into that I'm gonna be your friend and there's nothing you can say about it, type of thing. So he's just basically badgering them until something happens and he helps them out or saves them from something, and then they end up reluctantly joining the Kamen Rider Club and end up working together. And wasn't I'm pretty sure it's been a while since I've seen it, but there was a scene where they one of the members of the Kamen Rider Club kept watching stuff on Kamen Rider and finding out about other Kamen Riders and stuff like that.
Wow.
And that's kind of where they sort of coined it. Kind of, it was an urban legend or something like that.
That sounded more and more right.
Yeah. I agree with Mike though. Like we said, it's the most anime probably Kamen Rider out there from what I've seen, and that's even that became a little prophesized, I guess, because the actors for Fours and Meteor Bleach live action.
Right.
Yep.
Being into
That's why he can't come back anymore. He's too high profile now.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then it also gave us another female writer, in a movie. It was Kamen Rider Nadeshiko.
Yep.
Okay.
Which was really cool, but she was a slime, or turned out to be a slime. So space.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then later on, it's one of the few movies from the Kamen Rider series that I'll actually go back to. It's that one that she was in, and then I think it was Kamen Rider 4's Let's Go to Space, just because it really debuted all of his abilities, and then it gave us that new form of the cosmic states, where it combined the power of all the switches plus Meteor switch into this new form. Actually, was lucky enough to find the figure arts of it while we were in Japan. So it's like one of my favorite things that I got while we were over there. So
Nice.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
definitely my favorite series.
Yeah. And of course, side note, Ghost had to give the shout out when he went into space. he did the space time. I've never seen Jerry so damn happy.
That was a great scene.
All right. So next one on the list, I think, is one I like, quite a bit, but I think people tend to like it a little too much. Like almost like it's one of those online that if you don't like it, then you're wrong kind of thing.
No.
And that's Xaid, the video game doctor.
Right.
Did Kabuto. Okay.
But Xaid is again cool. Not my favorite main writer, but I like the other guys. I love I love all three of the other writers, and then also has one of my favorite villains in Kamen Rider Gem, Kuroto. I think he was that right amount of like corniness and like shtick that he like leaned into super heavy and like pulled it off like with his weird facial expressions, his weird delivery and lines and all that, and just made me laugh every time that he was in an episode.
I only watched maybe the first maybe 5 episodes, so I don't have a lot to say on the series. From what I did see, I wish I liked it more because of the video game theme. I thought I was gonna really dig it, and I wasn't feeling it. But again, I only saw like maybe 5 or 6 episodes, so that's hard to really say. Suit wise, I love he's the only Kamen Rider that I know of with hair.
Yes,
and I actually really love the suit, and I even loved his.
The suits are great in this series,
and I do love the 16-bit form or 8-bit form, whatever the super deformed.
Oh, yeah, the level 1 with the little chibi looking guy. Yeah,
I dig all that, but like I don't know, there was something about like I wasn't feeling the writer himself. But again, I didn't get deep enough into the show to really make a true judgment on it.
Yeah, and I mean, I watched quite a bit of this one. I really, honestly, super enjoyed it. Like you said, the costumes were amazing. I loved how they did the helmets. I love how they did the eyes and everything, and how they use their forms for different types of games, like first person shooter, platformer, adventure, stuff like that. And and this was actually one where like a writer dies fairly early on, and it really impacts the main character throughout the majority of the series. And it was just really, really good and fairly heartbreaking and everything. A lot of the stuff that they did in it with the forms and everything, like they did the Mighty Brothers X, and that was such a great thing. And I was waiting on it for a while. And essentially what happens is he has this like super powerful cartridge, and whenever he flips it, it splits him into 2 different personalities. So he's like, and they look really cool too. Like they have an orange one and a blue one. And then they even like did a ridiculously large form, like the super. It was almost like a power armor or something like that. I loved how they did that. There was just so much good stuff about this. They had a BMX form, like a character that had a BMX bike. I really like, out of all of the ones on here, I think my favorite one, and the one that I just like the costume with the most, was probably Snipe. That green and blue, and he had like the like over the face like hair or whatever. Like it was just a really, really neat thing. And their chess pieces are like a video game controller and everything. And of course, he's like the underground surgeon that's not supposed to be practicing medicine. And then you had your one that was based off of RPGs, I can't remember his name off the top of my head for some reason. Brave. Yeah, Kamen Rider Brave. He was like the he was like because your main character for Xaid was just kind of like sort of there. He wasn't like a super high profile doctor or anything, but he was like, I want to help, But Brave was like the all-star doctor that like was going to save everybody and everything. So it was a very interesting dynamic for a while for the three of them going through the series. And then your villains were just really interesting too. And honestly, I didn't really have any issues with any of the forms in this one. They were all really unique and interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
That whenever he turned into the dragon thing, that was a little weird. But it was still cool. I still really really enjoyed all of that series gave us.
Yeah. Like I said, a lot of fun. Just I think it gets a little too much praise. Where like it isn't the end all be all show that I think a lot of the internet likes to claim it is.
Right.
Next up on the list is one that after I watched it, I knew right away it's one of my top ones, and then every time I watch a new one, and then that would go up there, I kept thinking, oh man, but I really love this one, but like there's ones that I like better, and that's Fies.
Yeah.
Fies, I think, has one of the coolest aesthetics. Like again, it's a very dated thing where the whole shtick is that he signals into a flip phone and inserts it into the belt to finish the circuit. But I like that, like almost anyone that that can operate it can. So like there are multiple people in the show that are Fies, and just overall it's really cool.
It provides some interesting plot devices too, because at some point you get somebody that gets a hold of a belt and basically like commits like sort of a crime. But he just like makes the other person look bad because of something that he did. But this was actually the second series that I ever watched, so I love Fies. Fies is very good.
Yeah, I like the suit a lot. I actually I bought a model kit of him, so actually I have a Fies figure that I built myself.
Nice. Yeah, again, this one I think. Like Jerry was saying earlier, I think aesthetic and the design really plays a part for me sometimes. Right. And this one, it's all about the design for me. Like I just love all the suits. Even Delta, who the third rider, who's like barely in it, but I think it's a cool looking thing where like he actually says he says the word henshin into it and then puts it into his belt to transform.
Okay.
Which is I just think is really cool.
Yeah, and then you have the whole thing with like the like people that like have died, but whenever they died, they basically like evolved into these monsters. And I have yes, and you have this whole thing of like, he's got this missing class that they were trying to find stuff about. Stuff's happening with him, and then like you have people that try on the is it the Delta belt? And a lot of them, if they can't handle the power of it, they die and just turn to dust. So it has a really like dark and like kind of gripping story. And then you also get another character that kind of remains the protagonist through a lot of the series, or the antagonist, sorry. And you actually, and I think this might be one of the first times, but like as you're getting the main character's origin as Fies, you're also getting this other person's origin as becoming a monster as well. And it's really, really interesting concept on their part for that.
Right on.
Yeah, for sure. All right. All right. Next is that 0.5 one where it kind of counts, but like not so much. But I think the aesthetic of it was really cool. Was the Amazons show. That one, like I thought I was not gonna like it only because it seemed like a little too edgy, like almost like to be edgy, and it actually works. I think there's some things that are a little weird and all that, like like we're falling in love with technically dead people and all that is a little strange, but the main protagonist / antagonist, June, the guy who's Alpha, the red suit guy. I love his whole story from episode 1 to the end, the last episode of both seasons. I think he's great. So and yeah, not a lot to say outside of it just being like a really crazy like roller coaster of a series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was actually kind of on the fence because the reception that Amazon usually gets, it's just more of like sort of the, I don't know, goofier in the way of like his story and everything. So I was a little hesitant at this, but I had watched Kamen Rider the first, and then the two remake movies that they did. So I was kind of interested in getting into this. The only problem was I don't think I had Prime at the time, and I don't know that it was airing as it was coming out. So I haven't got to finish it yet. But like just the production value and everything that they threw into it was
for sure.
fantastic. Yeah. And I will definitely be revisiting that again.
Yeah, it being on Prime, I need to give it a watch. I wasn't feeling it. The suit, while granted a lot better than the original, but of course, that's decades between the show.
Yeah.
I don't know, wasn't crazy about what I did see, but it being on Prime and I have Prime, I should go back and check this one out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's something worth a shot, and I know that there are compilation movies, like there's like 2 different movies that kind of recap each season. So I don't know if those are on Prime or not, but those might be worth checking out just if you don't want to sit through like 2 13 episode seasons.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't know. I kind of wish that they would do this with some more of the Showa era stuff because I would love to see it.
Oh yeah.
If they did something for Stronger, oh my god!
I was just gonna say people have been clamoring for a stronger, like darker adult version.
Well, like it's like every time they bring in the Showa writers and like they have a scene with them, I'm like, it wasn't enough. I want more.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Now we're in my my top 10. So next one up is Drive. I think Drive has one. I love his suit. I think it when you look at it, that just a static shot, it looks a little corny, but it works so well. Like the big tire across his chest, like it changes with his little power ups and all that. He has really unique actual form changes. And I think Shinosuke, the main rider, is one of my favorite riders. I think he's just one of those good boys that you want him to just do well. Like he's a little goody two shoe, but he, like just enough that holding it back that he's not annoying about it.
Yeah,
it was a really interesting series with the whole car concept and everything because they had a car in Black, right, or Black RX.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting, and it's one of the few series where I wasn't crazy about the secondary rider, Mock, I think is what it was, but I freaking loved Chase.
Okay.
Rider Chase was, I just really liked the suit design for him, and like just the weapon.
I love their little like Zoro Sanji brotherly rivalry that they had going on throughout the series, and it just when they finally become good friends towards the end, it just like, yes, finally, like it's been building for all this time, and they're friends.
Didn't watch any of it. Hate the suit. I'm gonna say it. I don't like the tire wrap around the chest. I don't dig the helmet on Drive. Sorry.
It's a unique looking suit too, and it's like it doesn't suffer from a lot of the bulkiness that a lot of other suits do. It's even though he has a fucking tire wrapped around him, it's still a pretty sleek design.
Yeah,
I'll give you that. Sure. Just not appealing to me.
Right. And I mean, like all of his upgrades and stuff was just a different tire or whatever for the first few.
Like all the unique powers were all different tires because like his thing is kind of like Necrom. He has a wrist driver,
right?
That pairs up with a belt that is actually sentient. Yeah, weird, but like so like each car he would put in there, and then like a new tire would come on. But then he would like a special car that would turn his whole form differently. Like he had a green one. I'm blanking on one. A black one, and then his super one was a Formula One, so he had like a giant race car attached to his chest and all that. And then his final form is literally his car disassembles and becomes his suit, which is amazing.
Oh yeah, and this was also one of those first series, and honestly, at the moment, can't think of it. But his belt was sentient, so that was interesting.
Oh yeah. Doctor. Oh no. I'm blanking on the name. It was the guy who created the whole drive system, but he died and then put his consciousness into the belt.
Oh, I
Right.
mean, but Kiva's belt was sentient.
That's true.
Was it
That's true.
sentient?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the bat talked.
The bat.
I can't
Yeah,
remember.
he had
his name.
he had full on conversations with Wataru.
Yeah, so fuck Drive.
You're right.
I'm kidding.
Oh no, I just remember what his name is. It's Dr. Steinbelt. That's literally his name.
Dr. Stein.
Right, because he used to call it Mr. Belt all the time.
Yes,
Right.
Belt son.
So ridiculous.
Yes. Oh, I love it. All right. Next is Double. Double was one that as I'm watching them all, and going order, and I know this is coming. I'm like, oh, that's such a I don't know if I like that. Are they two different guys that become one rider? Like the consciousness of both are in one body and all that. And man, when you hear that opening song, there's a banger of a song. Mm-hmm. It's that neo noir, hard boiled story. It just, oh man, I love it. I love that. I think Axel, the secondary rider, is one of my favorite secondary riders. He's just
seriously. And I love that he got his own movie too.
Yes,
that's so great. Yeah. He's so hard boiled, and I love that he has a fucking badass sword that's just too heavy for him to carry around as a normal person. So the only thing he can use it is to transform. It's too great.
You know what? Yeah. I like the double concept. I like the look of the suit. And I get the point of the belt, but I hate the belt.
Yeah, the belt's not great.
I'm not a fan of the belt, but I like the combos. I like the mixing of the different sides. Actually, I get it. I think the whole suit works, and I get why the belt looks the way it does. I just don't think the belt works very well.
True.
It was definitely interesting, and they had a prototype one that only had one side to it, which Kamen Rider Skull was dope. I don't know if you've ever watched the Skullman anime. I mean, well, and this is kind of like a big pool, but Ishinomori actually did a series called Skullman back in the day, like a manga series.
Right, that's right.
Yeah, okay. And that was kind of like a hard pull reference of that Kamen Rider Skull. Oh, nice. So and they did a new anime series called Skullman, which is really cool, really dark, that was supposedly supposed to usher into Kamen Rider or whatever, or because it was that whole thing of oh well, we're gonna turn this guy into a villain or whatever, and he turns against people and fights them. But double was awesome. I like the whole USB drive thing, and how people were using them to transform, almost like a drug type thing. That was really, really interesting. And just that it was two different people. So you had one character that would physically put the belt on. Whenever he did, it would connect to the other character, and they would sync their movements and put a drive in. And one of them would pass out, and the other one would basically have most motor functions, and they could switch out and use both of their brains during a fight and figure out how best to beat the enemies and everything. And he was a fucking detective, which was a really cool concept. And I think that was the thing with XL. He was just like a cop, right? He wasn't a detective.
He was, yeah. Yep. He was a detective in the police force, not like a private detective.
Right. And he I don't know, his just base outfit with the red leather jacket and everything was so cool.
Yeah.
He was just really fucking edgy, and I usually don't like the edgier characters, but XL was great.
He was the kind that had a story, had a distinct story that he had to go through in the season, and he actually he concludes that story pretty early on, but he actually still has a purpose after that, and he becomes again, like I said, he's one of my favorite secondary riders in the whole series, because he's a great character. I don't know, I can't describe it.
And I mean, he even had 3 different forms, so that was pretty cool. Yep. I was a little weird whenever he became a motorcycle occasionally, and
it was a little odd.
So I was like, let's glaze over this and focus on the main dude. But no, yeah, it was a pretty great series. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right. Next up, another one that again is all over the internet as like this is like if you're getting into Kamen Rider now, this is one of the ones that you have to watch, and if you don't like it, you're wrong, kind of thing. And you know what? When I was getting into when I was getting to it, I thought, I hope this isn't really like ruin it for me, but it actually lives up to the hype, and that's Build.
Oh, okay.
I think Build is I love the whole like asymmetrical look to it. I love the characters. I think his friend, I think Sento and Banjo, the two riders, their bromance is one of the best. I got a little misty eyed at the end of the season because you think, oh no, it like after all this, like spoiler alert, they go to a new world and you think that Sento's the only one who remembers the old world, and so like when he sees Banjo, he doesn't recognize him, and I go no. After all this, like his best friend doesn't recognize him, and then he comes, and then the real Banjo comes in, and they do remember each other.
Right.
Oh,
the asymmetry of it doesn't bother me as much as who was that? Zio or whatever.
Right.
Or the one I bitched about before. No, like
yeah.
that was like 3 hours ago. Yeah, this one it doesn't bug me as much. I'm not crazy about the suit, but I don't hate it. I never watched any of this though.
No, it's fun because like the whole thing is he puts in these bottles into his belt, and one is always a living thing and one's always a non-living thing, and there's always like he can always kind of mix and match, but his main forms are always what they call best match. Like the one bottle always goes with another one, and they always, when he puts them in, it says best match, and then he can turn into that new form, which I like all the cool different combinations that he can make.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and I mean, like even the base form Rabbit Tank was just so dope. I really, really, really dug that. And it kind of had like that sort of double feel to it,
Yep, for sure.
With the mixing two different things. So a lot of like the Neo Heisei stuff, and I mean even though doubles Neo Heisei, now that I think about it, it's more like taking kind of what they did and like doing better with it. And I mean honestly, like you can't really super compare the two other than this one like gimmick. But yeah, I like that they weren't done with this combination gimmick and decided to go another route with it and give us a series. And just the fact that like what was it? It was like something happened and it erected walls around cities. So you had basically like 3 different cities or something like that.
Yeah. It was this box was found on Mars, and they bring it down, and then when one of the guys touches it, it explodes, and these 3 walls pop out from the center of Japan, basically separating into 3 different like countries almost. And it's like the whole story is like each faction is trying to like take over the other one, kind of thing, for vying for power to control all Japan.
Yeah, it's really interesting because you kind of get like an espionage like aspect of it and everything, and like just the other factions and stuff like that just all that stuff that they put into it was really neat. And like yes, it did kind of suffer from like the overform syndrome because didn't he have one that was just a bunch of bottles like connected to his costume?
Yes. Yep. That's his final form is literally a white base with all the different bottles like attached. Yeah. A little weird.
Yeah, it was bananas. Yeah, like, and I don't know why they do this. I don't know. Maybe it's appealing to kids and everything in Japan, but yeah, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, we're gonna do this form. It's gonna be super cool," and it's like, that's not cool. That's so weird.
Right.
But just the concept of having these 2 like different liquids, and he's got like the crank on it that kind of like mixes them together and makes his power. And like a lot of the secondary riders in the series was really
I think ultimately I like the secondary, like all the other guys more than I like Sento as much as I enjoy Sento. But the third rider, Grease, is the guy who plays the father in Kiva. He comes back as a main rider.
Nice.
So if you like Atoya from Kiva, you'll love Grease in Build.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember whenever I was watching this, I had another friend that was watching it, and he was like further along than me, and he was like, "Oh my god, wait till you get to Grease." But
He's fun.
it was a really cool series.
All right, next one is one that I think is on the bottom of a lot of people's lists because they don't watch it because they think it's one thing, and that's Hibiki. Hibiki is it is 29 episodes of a perfect tokusatsu show. And then then they change writers and directors and all that, and it becomes just a typical tokusatsu. But it is one of the most unique, I think, perfect tokus, for 29 episodes, and then the rest can kind of fall flat. But there's no belt, or then there's a belt, quote unquote, but he uses a tuning fork. There's no one says henshin in the show because I think originally it was supposed to not be a rider show, and then it ended up being a rider show. But
it was just supposed to be some just regular superhero show over there, right?
Right. But it has an aesthetic, and it has an atmosphere, and if you get into it, perfect. It fulfills everything that you want out of that show. Like the relationship between Hibiki and the kid that he's training is perfect. It's perfect mentorship and all that. The secondary and third riders are great. Actually, the third rider, his teacher is actually the guy who plays the werewolf in Kiva. Like I was saying, earlier that he comes back, and when I saw him in Kiva, and go, I love him. I'm so glad that he's the main guy. Nice. But yeah, I think Hibiki gets a bad rap because just people go, oh, I don't want that. It's sound. It's not, but it does it so well, personally.
Yeah. And out of all the Heisei stuff, he has one of the most unique looks out of all so many series. Right.
Well, because they're taking that riders that they call themselves Onis in the show. They're training it to be an Oni.
Yeah.
So they all have the little horns. They all have they fight giant monsters and all that. It's again, I can't say it enough how cool the show is. Once you get into it, it is such a cool show.
Yeah, you've got a dude with a guitar for a weapon. I mean, what more could you ask?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like when I first see the suit, it's like I hate it, but the more I look at it, the more I like it. You know what I mean? Because you're right, it's very different. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but like I said, the more I look at it, I'm feeling it a little bit more. The helmet especially does a great, I got a great picture of a helmet replica, and it looks pretty badass. I'm digging it.
Nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I like the way that they did the horns on the main three riders, because you've got the main one that has the basically they're not called drumsticks, but I can't think of another word for them, so I'm going to call them.
Oh yeah, because his power is to hit the giant Japanese drum.
Yeah,
it's
like Taito drums, or is that the name of the?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. Like Taito drums. Yeah.
But yeah, he's got the two horns coming out on his, and then the one with the guitar has the one horn, and then the one with the trumpet has three horns on his. And just the designs for each one is just really neat and unique. And you could tell that they did not intend this series to be a Kamen Rider series whenever it first started coming out.
Not at all. Not until they change and they bring in. I think it's one of the guys who had been running Kamen Rider or Toku shows for a while, and you could tell it's not bad. It becomes average, and that really brings down what could have been a top 3 show to a number 6.
Right.
All right. Well, we're on your top 5. Let's do this.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one that I think people always, when new people come in, they say, "What should I watch?" And people go, "This one," and that's Gaim. Where it's the fruit ninjas. This show starts off. It starts off where it's Beat Boys. They're all like dance troops, and they all play with essentially like a Pokemon style game where they have these little these lock seeds, and these little monsters come out and they fight and all that, and then all of a sudden these black market traders of the lock seeds, they have drivers. where you put them in and you become the fighter in these little Pokemon battles.
Right.
And then it goes from there to the point where he becomes Fruit Jesus.
Okay, so here's my thing. I think I maybe saw 1 or 2 episodes, and like the story may be fun, may be great. Obviously, it made it to your top 5. There's a reason for it.
Right. Yeah.
The aesthetic. I like the samurai part. I don't like the fruit part.
I think it's one. Yeah, I think it's one of those that like I think they meant for it to be like you can't just do samurai. I mean, you could, but that's kind of boring. So like then they added in this fruit stuff, or it was a fruit thing, and then they became the samurai thing later on. Like, and they decided to just melt the two. And I again, it's not for everybody, but I think it has one of the best progressions from episode 1 to the final episode of like where these characters come and go, like the character development, the story progression is just it's bonkers.
Yeah, and I can fully acknowledge that themes work better, may be a lot better when you actually are in the story than just looking at them on a design aspect, because I don't know the context.
Mm-hmm.
So I can acknowledge that much about it. It's just, yeah, I remember, like, as we said, like, I think Jerry has yelled it out, was like Fruit Ninjas. That was like the first thing I saw, like, but that aside, I actually really like the driver of the knife cutting the fruit.
Yes. Yep.
That's creative. That's very creative. I dug that.
I think it's one that really delivers on the what could be really stupid aesthetics, and I think it just like I don't know. I just think it really it's better in action than it is describing it.
I'm gonna take your word for it. Because, like I said, at a glance, I'm like, ugh. You heard me literally when you said guy. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
You put.
I knew it was coming. Yeah, I knew that. I knew it was coming when the same way I knew that me saying Ghost was my second least favorite.
Yeah, all your opinions are now invalid.
Well, okay, so I don't think that this is going to change your opinion on it at all. But I think I brought it up whenever it first got announced. But one of the things that made me really excited about it is the person that was writing the show. Are you familiar with who it was, Mike?
I don't believe so.
So it was Gen Urabochi, and you may have heard of some of their work. They've done visual novels. They've done some manga. Most notably, they've done Fate Zero.
Okay.
Blue Lagoon. They've written some anime series as well. They also did Fate Zero second season, Psycho-Pass. And then Madoka Magica, the movies. They also wrote those as well. So it has a dark presence to it. I mean, you basically find out that these people, normal people, will wind up in this world that they've never seen before, eat a fruit, turn into a monster. So the main character doesn't find out until a little bit later on that, oh shit, that monster that I killed in the first episode was like a friend of mine, somebody that I knew that was in my group. So it's got a really dark thing to it. And like, you get your secondary, which there are so many secondary writers in this series. And you so like one of the first ones that you run into is the banana one. I think it's Baron. Which was really interesting. And then you have the one that's like based off of the what was it, the dragon fruit? It was the white and green one. It was really interesting.
Oh, the melon.
Yeah. And then
Kamen Rider Zangetsu.
Yeah, Zangetsu. That's right. And then like, his brother, who's friends with the main character, becomes a Kamen Rider, and then his brother starts plotting against them, which was a kind of brilliant switch to the series. They just had so many interesting writers in the series. What was the one that was the durian fruit?
Oh, that was the French baker or
Yes.
the French chef. Oh no, was that also Brave? That wasn't Brave, also was it?
Bravo.
No.
Kamen Rider Bravo.
Yep.
Yes. Yep. Oh my God. Talk about amazing characters. Bravo was one of my favorite, like, in this series. He just like pops up and he's like super like flamboyant and just wants to make a show of it. And I think he's like some kind of like ex-marine or something like that.
He's like ex Green Beret or something like that.
Yeah, like special forces and shit.
He's like the only one of because everyone else are like kids for the most part.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he's the only one who can actually fight. So he basically takes the driver and says, I'll show you how to actually fight, kind of thing, and like whoops everyone's butt.
Yeah, it just takes them all down a notch, and it was such a great moment in that series. Also, something to note that I really enjoyed was like some of the more comedic moments. Like at the very beginning, he transforms reluctantly, and then he's trying to he keeps transforming in his everyday life to try to like make things easier on him. He's like,
yep.
Oh, I'm at work, I'm gonna transform, and he always has this stupid smile whenever he's doing the lock seat and stuff. And there was like a whole montage of him screwing up like all of his different jobs and stuff.
Right, because he was trying to figure out his pose on how he was gonna transform. Because a rider has to have a pose.
Yeah. So like, and I was kind of glad that the B-Boys thing kind of took a backstage there, because I wasn't like super into it. I understood like that's why we had to have like the group together and how they like had all their backgrounds and stuff. But it turned into a really cool series. Got really dark at moments, and it was pretty great. And then not to mention like his big power up that he got later on, his Kachidoki arms form was
I love it.
So cool. Yeah, very very samurai-esque. He got like the kind of like blunderbuss-esque rifle with it and everything. Yep. Yeah, it was really cool.
It was. All right. Next up, number 4 is one that I think people don't like the rider, so they don't like this show so much, is Kabuto.
Oh.
Because Tendo is literally out for only himself.
It's true.
He is not the typical writer where he's out to make good on the world and all that. He only cares about himself and doing what is best for him. And he's basically the Great Gatsby, where everything is for him. He is the best, and he actually fulfills on a lot of that. Like he actually is the best in this series. But I love, like you were saying earlier, that this one has a lot of riders that are all book themed and all that, but I like a lot of the secondary riders, like Gatak. I like Sasor.
Oh yeah. The Bee.
The Bee.
Jump Hopper and Kick Hopper were probably
the Hell Bros.
They're so great.
This one I hadn't seen much on, but overall I like the helmet. The suit's kind of plain, but I do like his belt looks like the horn beetle that he's modeled after. So it's okay. It's okay.
I love it.
Yeah, it was like that whole thing where they were like, man, remember back whenever we did that one series Ryuki and it was just a clusterfuck of like characters and stuff. Let's do that again, but let's try to clean it up just a little bit.
Yeah.
And oh man, it was just so great. And I love that they did that whole thing where you have the character that's like trying to make him a better person throughout the whole series, and like he finally gets his own belt. And I love that they're different beetles. Like the strongest 2 are like the beetles, and then the rest of them are kind of like just other insects. But the whole like character arc with the 2 characters that ended up becoming Punch Hopper and Kick Hopper was like such an intriguing thing with the 2 of them, and like they turned into some really interesting characters. Just both, I think, because like once they're actually both grasshoppers, they're just like different shades.
It's green and like a silvery brown almost.
Yeah, like they're that character that like got beat up like so many times by like the main character that they just like quote unquote like turned to darkness and their world is just like hate now. It's just so great. Yeah.
Yeah. So number 3 is O's. O's took, because like I was saying about Double going into it, like I knew what was coming, and I wasn't feeling it so much, but I think I love the aesthetic. Again, it's one of those, like, it's not uniform. It's, red, green, yellow, red, yellow, green. Almost like a traffic light, but like he has the 3 coins that he puts in to have different forms, and if he gets all 3 of the same color, he has like more powerful forms and all that. It was kind of like what I like where with build, where we're like the different combinations, because there's so many ones, and then also the fact that Eiji is one of the best like riders. He is one of those like out to save everybody. Like he's again, like Shinosuke. He's that good boy. Like you want him to do well because he only wants what's best for everybody.
I mean, in a way, he's like the complete opposite of Kabuto.
Yes, exactly. He was like a resurgence of Kuga in terms of just like, only out for everyone else, not for himself.
Purely aesthetic design, because I've never seen any of this show. Ugliest rider since Amazon. I hate the helmet. I hate the chest piece, the belts. I hate everything about this man. But
it's so good. It's
again, like it. maybe in action it looks better, but just purely seeing the stills,
right?
Ugliest rider, but is only complemented by a rider with a scarf and a fedora that I'm seeing in the background makes up for all of his flaws. Because I know I've seen him. Is that Kamen Rider Skull or something like that?
Yeah. If he's got the fedora and the scarf, that was Skull.
I see it at least in the poster or something like that. I don't know the context.
Then that's probably a movie poster, because Skull's from Double.
Oh, okay.
So
well, then never mind. There's no saving
Kamen Rider. Then. I would say Kamen Rider Birth is the secondary rider, and there's kind of like the Fives belt. There's multiple users of Birth, and the whole premise is like it's these ancient creatures that come around, and they're trying to get more powerful. So what they do is that they created these like these little sub monsters to make coins. And then they get more powerful the more they eat, and so O's has this power from each of the monsters' coins, because like I think each one has like 12 coins or something like that, and but then Birth uses all the other ones. So like literally the main guy walks around with a big jug of these coins that he uses and that he uses in his belt and then in his gun. So he just like. He'll run out of ammo and just have to like refill with all that, and so like it's a lot of fighting between the two of them to try and get as many of these coins as possible.
Right. Yeah, it's really an interesting concept, and it's one of the few that I actually like the main writer more than the secondary writer. I'm just like, I did not like Birth. Birth didn't have any other forms or anything. The most interesting thing about it were the actual people that were the writer.
Yes.
Like the main suit stuff itself. But it's kind of cool because it goes into like, vending machines, which are a huge part in Japan, and Gashapon, which is another big part of it. And like even, his motorcycle in this series was a fucking vending machine that he would have to go and put coins in, and it would change the vending machine into a motorcycle. And like you said, the main character, Eiji, is just like such a cool dude. I loved every aspect of him, and he his belt isn't like, it doesn't communicate, but he actually, one of the, I think they were called the Greed. Were the big enemies. Well, one of them was actually mostly destroyed except for its arm, and it ends up possessing someone else, a la Parasite, someone that's about to die or something, which isn't like Parasite at all, but anyway. So like it kind of like mentors him in accordance for its own like goals. to get its own coins and everything back. But I mean, like one of my favorite things whenever he transforms and changes new forms and stuff is like the little phrase that it'll do, because it's all part of the word of the animal in Japanese. So the main one's like tatoba. So I like literally had that stuck in my head for months. It's just like, tatoba, tatoba, tatoba.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I love it.
So catchy. But like, yeah, and then like you said, he would get those like super forms. But it was cool that each coin had a different presence from something in the animal kingdom. So like his base form that he has here, the top is from the bird kingdom. I think it was like a hawk or a falcon. His arms, his middle part is like it's yellow, so it's part of I think a tiger.
Like tiger, yeah.
And then the bottom is part of insect, so I think it was like grasshopper. So he would get like 3 different bugs, and he would have like a bug super form, or 3 different from the big cat family, and have a super form for that. And like had big special powers for all of these. And then like later on in the series, they were like developing some secret ones, and they ended up being fucking dinosaurs, and that was pretty dope. But loved so much of this series, and just the fact that the super forms weren't like too far out there,
right,
in terms of like how ridiculous they could get. And yeah, it was an all around really great show. You really got attached to the main character, and then the yummy that was, or not the yummy, that was the name of the minions, but the greed
Ankh,
Ankh, yeah. So yeah, it was a really great show. It was really dope.
He's still ugly.
So my last 2, which by process of elimination, you guys could probably figure it out, but on any given day could swap. And right now, I'm thinking it's leaning this way. Number 2 is Kuga. Again, Kuga was my first one, so like Sean and Kiva, like, you always love your first rider. But looking back, he's the complete opposite of what Rider has become. It is a solo rider in like a him against the world kind of thing, where it's dark, it's creepy, and it's just him. Like he has friends in the police force and all that, but like he doesn't have other riders. It's just him. Yeah, he has other forms and all that, but like he doesn't have 15 forms that they can go through. He has 4, and then that's it. And he's also the strongest. I'm sure there are tons of videos out there describing it, but like he had his first like major form, his kick technically could destroy a city, and he's afraid to use it. He uses it, and then he's afraid to ever use that form again because of how powerful it is. It's his final fight with the main bad guy. He technically loses in the first time they fight, and then he's scared and he has to kind of like come to grips with it, and then they fight, and the visceral fight that they have, there's blood. They're like taking chunks out of each other because they're hitting themselves so hard. It's just, I don't know. I love Kuga. I think I'm mad that the main actor doesn't like Ryder anymore and will never come back. So it's a shame.
And I mean, judging by like just looking at the design, it feels like this is probably early in this era of
it's the first one. Yeah,
first one.
It's the first one back,
because like the helmet is very cool. The rest of it is very plain. And I remember when I drew this one, I hate the chest piece specifically. I drew him for you. Oh, it just doesn't take away from my drawings. I did my best.
Oh no, it was fantastic.
Working with what I have with these ugly ass writers you like. No, kidding.
That's stupid.
But yeah, you could tell it's early on. But like the helmet is legit. I really do like his the bug horn kind of crown almost that he has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is actually one of the first ones that they had done that had so many forms and power ups. Like Stronger had a super form, and then S1 had like different module things that he could do, kind of like how Forrest had it. But Kuga was like the first one that actually had like the element thing going on, where he physically changed like the color and his fighting style and stuff, and that's I mean, there's definitely something to be said about that.
Oh,
Big
yeah,
time.
for sure.
Yeah. And you said that they didn't have any secondary writers in this one, right?
No, it was just him. It was him, and then his best friend the guy on the police force that like ended up becoming like a good friend of his and helped him out a lot. But like, yeah, that it was just him.
Yeah, it's definitely one that I've had on my list for a very long time.
I mean, when you watch, if you're more into the Neo Heisei stuff, it's slow, but it definitely pays off with and with everything. And like you feel like you're part of the world versus just like what new power is he gonna have this episode? It's like it's just like how is he gonna like what's the new creature he's gonna fight and how is he gonna beat it?
Oh yeah, and I guess that's one of the handicaps of like the newer series is you're like, okay, well it's gonna go like this where they're gonna introduce a new form here, and here.
Right.
This is probably when they're gonna introduce their new rider and stuff like that. You can basically plan it out, but
if you go onto like Reddit and all that and look it up, they know what episodes like a new form is going to come out and when a new rider is going to come, when the super form comes, like generally it's kind of like Super Sentai when like they know when the sixth rider is going to come or the sixth ranger is going to come next and all that.
Yeah, never go to Reddit.
Let this be a lesson to you, kids.
Yeah. All right. So number 1,
yes,
is Den-O. Den-O is I love it. I love the whole aesthetic of different creatures, the Imagine, taking over him to have different forms and how they fight. I love how funny it is. There's a reason why they literally just made a new special for Den-O this year.
Oh yeah,
wow, really?
Like and this came out in 2007. So we're looking at like 14 years later. They're still making specials because it's so popular and it's that good. And it also has my favorite secondary rider. Zeranos is a great guy. The whole point of him is that he is technically the boyfriend of the main rider's sister, but he disappears at some point, and the guy that we know is him in the past. Like it's him as he's younger, and he's like, and now he's interacting with them. So like the main guy knows that at some point it's going to be his sister's boyfriend, but like he doesn't know that yet, or so you think. I mean, there's a lot of time travel in this one, so it gets a little sticky sometimes. But I love the aesthetic that he only has a set amount of times that he can become Zeranos, his rider, because he uses he uses people's memories of him. So every time he uses it, he becomes Zeranos. That someone's memory of him disappears, and then his super form, he then uses his memories of people. So like every time he does that, he loses a memory that he had of somebody, kind of thing.
Right.
So like. Like I said before, it's a very funny show. But so when they introduce him, it's him and his Imagine, who, whenever he meets somebody, his Imagine is always trying to like please be his friend. Here's a candy. Kind of thing. And you realize that he's doing it so that he creates memories because he keeps losing all those memories. People keep forgetting who he is. Like there's an episode like midway through when like you watch him running around giving candy to people and like. It finally hit me like, oh my God, he wants to create as many memories of, he wants more people to remember who his friend is because at some point they're going to forget who he is. He hit you like a ton of bricks.
and Deneb is such a great character. It was such a great like little yokai for him to get paired with.
Yeah. So it's one I've seen more probably GIFs and clips from this show, but I haven't sat down and watched it. I can say like I like his suit, but I don't like his helmet. I don't like the eyes that kind of like come off of the helmet in a sense.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense
in a design wise. But all that is forgiven for the greatness that is Momotaro's.
Oh yeah. And I just love that. I love that because kind of like Forze, where Ryotaro, the guy who played him, goes on to play Kenshin in the live action Kenshin movies, and he becomes this high profile actor that like you can't like they can never get back. They got him back for like a literally 2-minute clip in one of the last movies, and he doesn't say a word because I guess they only had him for so long, and they couldn't. It was one of those almost like they didn't know they were gonna get him until like the last minute kind of thing. So they've eventually made Den-O. The main writer of Den-O is Momotaro's because why not?
Yeah. From what I've seen, like you see clips of him all over the place. So I'm already a fan of Momotaro's, but I'm never actually watching the show. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a popular one. Our good buddy Drew, who runs out of the Toku Time, I believe this is his favorite series as well.
Oh, it's great. Good choice.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the it's got that big uniqueness to it, where he has all these different like they're called Imogen in the series. They're essentially like yokai. There's a kappa, there's your oni, and all that, and they essentially inhabit the main character to change his forms, which drastically changes his personality and his fighting style. But other than doing it for his actual writer persona, they do it to him like as just himself. And it's kind of interesting because they get like the straight up like hair change, and his attitude completely changes.
And the actor sells each change like he is a completely different person. So he essentially plays 5 different people when like in human form, whereas they have guys in suits playing the actual Imogen, but like the actual actor when he's possessed by somebody is playing a whole different character.
Yeah, it's so great. Yeah, and you love like the uniqueness of all of the Imogen too. They all look really cool. Just in the fact like trains are a really big thing in Japan. One of my favorite Super Sentai series that Sean knows of was Tokyuger.
Oh yeah.
So this was definitely like a must series to get into, just because I'm pretty sure they did a little like pairing with them at some point, with their trains and stuff.
Pretty sure because like I said, in every like big crossover between Rider and Sentai, somehow Den-O always shows up because again he's like the unofficial face of Rider, right now. Like he's the one that everyone recognizes.
Yeah. But yeah, this was a great series. You just gotta love the emotion in it and all the backstories for the Imogen too, and why they decide to end up joining with the main character and fighting and everything. It's all really, really good.
Well, awesome. Well, we have gone through your list. We can't argue. I can't argue with a lot of it, other than Kiva being so damn low and Ghost.
I'm sorry,
but it's your right to be wrong all you want with your ugly writers that you love so much. but we are desperately over time, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Though, Mike, thank you. Hey, look, we outside of our One Piece specials, but I feel like now anytime Mike's on, fuck it, we're just going as long as we need to.
I apologize.
No, this has been great.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
no, I'm absolutely just teasing. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I got a group of friends I think are going to really enjoy this breakdown, and we enjoy having you on, man. And
I say it every time that I'm on the One Piece ones, but I appreciate you guys even thinking about me to have on. So thank you so much. This was a blast.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure.
Oh, for sure. And if y'all like what you heard out there in podcast land, anyway, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that goodness. You know the drill. Mike, again, thank you for coming on. And we're gonna catch y'all later.
Peace.
Later.